Hi everyone, in today's tutorial I want to show you how we can use 2D elements such as stops and map it onto face 3D element. So in this case we will be using a cube, we will be using pops, and we will map the 2D text onto each face of the cubes. So let's get started. We can start with a brand new project, and as always, for those who don't want to follow along, I will have this project file on my Patreon. The link will be in the description. And I just want to make a small shout out to my Patreon supporters. Thank you for supporting me, that means a lot to me, and I can continue creating those tutorials for you. The first thing we're gonna bring is a box. And then to map the texture, the 2D texture on each face, we will need to use texture map. And we will connect it to a geo. Before we move on, we will create the texture 2D. So let's bring some text up. Let's bring 6 of them. Now to not change like every single one, you can just select them all. And then we will just change the font, just put it to 100. And then I use a custom font, but you can use the font already in TouchDesigner. But I will link in the description below the font I use, so if you want to recreate the same thing. And then we will just need to add some letter. You can add whatever you want. Next, we will bring a switch. And then you can select all of them, just connect it here. It will connect every single one of them instead of just like one by one. Now let's bring texture 3D. So this is where we're gonna map all the letters to put on the cube. The cube have 6 face. Then I want to have 6 square here so I can map it properly onto the cube. And to do that, I will change the cache size, and I will change it to 6. Now we have 6. We will also change the type to texture 2D. To prefill the values here, we will go into the switch and then use the formula v.time.frame -1. And then if we disable the active and enable the prefill and then pulse, then you will see that all our letters are here. Then we can connect it to a null. The next thing we're going to do is bring a constant material. And you can drag the null on the constant. And then you can drag the constant on the geo from the material. If we go back into the texture map, we will change the texture method to vertex. So we will use the face of the cube. And now we see that some letters appear, but we have to center them in the middle. In order to do that, in the texture map you have some scale and offset. You have to change the first offset to 0.5, and then the second offset, like offset y, to 0.52. And now you have your letter, but it's only one letter. In order to have different letter, we will need to change the offset z. So for example, if I move along, you can see that the letter is changing, but it's changing all of them, and that's not what we want. We want to have some different letter onto different face. To separate each face, I know there's probably a few methods to do that. Probably you can also achieve the same thing with groups, but for me, I use the delete pop, which work well. After the texture map, you can bring a delete pop, and we have to change the entity to primitive. And in the attribute, we want to select the prim index. And then I can show you, let me bring the dat up 2, and let's split the screen, export in that, and just drag it onto here and open. And then we want to change the extract here to primitive also. Oh, sorry, not primitive, artist. every face have 4 primitive. So for example, these 4, so 0, 1, 2, 3, you see they all have zeros here, and then so this is the primitive index and this is the vertex index. So we have to change the texture 2 here, so the texture Z for each vertex of each primitive in order to be different. So we cannot randomly assign some number here because it won't match each face. I'm not sure if this is well explained, but I will show you in a moment. Like, just to illustrate what I'm saying, if you go into the texture map and you change the value of the offset Z, you see that the texture is changing. So we want to change this texture, but we want to do it in a way that each texture is one letter of texture 2D. Okay, so let's go back in the delete. So we want to select the prim index here. So the function would be equal to 0, and the value would be the index. In the delete, we want to actually keep every element for the index 0. After that, I will bring a matte mix. Okay, and then in the matte mix, actually I want to keep the texture Z to 0.5 because it's the letter A. So I will go in the matte mix and I will choose in the input, I will choose primitive. And in the combine, I will go with A. So I will write 0.5 and I will create a new attribute that I will call offset Z. And after that, if we put the matte mix here, we have to convert the primitive into the vertex. So now we are changing the value of Z of the primitive, but we actually want to use the vertex for the face. So we have to use an attribute convert. And then we will change primitive to vertex, and the input attribute would be offset Z. And then we have to copy and paste this 5 times because there are 6 faces. So Control C, and then we just have to change the primitive. So primitive 1, primitive 2, primitive 3, primitive 4, and primitive 5. 5 because it goes from 0. It's not going from 1 to 6. It goes from 0 to 5. So that's why the last one is 5. And we have to change the values, so it could be another letter. I will merge it now so you can maybe see the letter changing. So let's just select everything here. Merge. After the merge, we will add another matte mix. So we can reference or offset Z that we created here to the actual texture value. In the input, we will change it to vertex. Go in the combine and choose A. Then offset Z. And the result scope would be text.z. And you can drag the last matte mix onto the pop2. We can check the result. Okay, so the first one would be 0.5. The second one, so it will go into increments. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the second one would be 1.5. So if we look here, we should see a B. Yeah, so there's a B here. Okay, it's a little bit glitchy, so the value are not right. Let's try 0. See here. And for the B, so let's just do yeah, that's better. And change it for the rest. So 2, 3, 5. And everything is here. If you want to animate the switch, we can use LFO and put the frequency to something like 5. Let's use a count. And in the limit, choose the loop min-max, the limit between 0 and 5. And if the number is not even here, you can just pause it and reference in the index. And you have to activate the texture here. So now they are changing. You can also add some background color, which is what I did. For example, A, C, and E could be white. Go into the color, background color alpha, just put it to 1 and select the other one. You can choose the white color and change the font color to black. We can render it, so we can add the camera. And render the top. No. Just toggle here, make the view active. We can change the resolution, something like 1080 by 1080. We can change the pixel format to 16-bit float, and we can add some rotation. In the geo, just change the transform mode to translate scale rotate, and we can use the apps time formula. So apps time dot second times 360 times 0.1. Just copy, paste. We don't need the table anymore. We can just do that. And it's looking already good, but I wanted to add a layer to that. So what I did is I duplicated this, and then I used the layout top. In the layout tab, I chose the grid rows, and then 6 by 6, and fit the outside. And I did the same thing for the other letters. The outside, and you can change it if you want, like grid column. Let's just use column. I think it will look better. And then instead of using this switch, I switch between those two and use this the texture 2D. So in the count, you can change the limit to 1, and don't forget to change the letters because you won't see it. So now it's switching, and then actually I think it's too even, so I will change some of the background color so it's less looking like a checkerboard. Say like that. Another thing that I want to show you, in the texture map you can change the offset, and it will like change the direction, which is it can look cool. And you can also change the scale to like that. And we can do some small post processing. In the cam, we can bring bring the cube forward. We can add a light. And we can also add some background with shadows, so we can use a grid. Make it big, and let's grab another geo. and let's change the set position to -0.3. For the material, we will use PBR. And to have some shadows, we can go in the light, enable the soft shadows 2D. We can change the PBR metallic bit and roughness. And if we right click on the light in view, we can just bring it closer so we can see the shadow. To make the shadow softer, what you can do is you can use a render pass. Drag the render on the render pass and choose the render pass top. In the geo, drag the geo 2, and in the light, drag the light. And then clear the buffer 1. So now we only have the shadow. You can use a blur to blur the shadow a bit. Then you can add it here. If it's too light, you can just reduce the light strength depending on taste. And also change the metallic. But that's it for today's tutorial. I hope it was useful and I hope my explanation were not all over the place. If you have some question, don't hesitate to comment on the video. You can also DM me on Instagram or Patreon. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the next one.